The transmission flickered across the dimly lit command center, its grainy image a reflection of the shattered Imperial glory. The voice crackled from a voice modulation device, its tone cold and authoritative. "Report," came the sharp command. The figure on the screen was barely visible, the contours of a man's face obscured by the afterglow of burning debris in the background. "General Orkey's the sniper. His name is Marcus Vane. They call him Deadeye." The officer's voice was barely audible, strained with disbelief. The general's eyes narrowed, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "You are certain it was him? That a single human did this?" "Yes, sir." The officer hesitated, a flicker of doubt creeping into his voice. He shot through 9 inches of armor. The officer's voice faltered at 3 kilometers from a moving vehicle. Orkey's was silent for a moment, his fingers tapping slowly against the edge of his desk, the sound echoing in the cold stillness. His gaze shifted the map before him, highlighting a sprawling sector under Imperial control. Another line appeared, drawn in red ink, marking the area where the sniper had struck, halting an entire advance. "The problem isn't the shot," Orkey's finally said, his voice calm but tinged with unmasked frustration. "It's that a single human is capable of halting an Imperial assault." The officer nodded, unable to offer rebuttal. The Galactic Empire had long dismissed humanity as a subjugated race, fit only for menial tasks and cannon fodder. Humanity was a blip on the Empire's radar, its contributions trivial at best. But Deadeye Marcus Vane had changed all of that. His legend had spread like wildfire, an ember igniting the fire of rebellion across the sectors. No one had expected it. The Empire was accustomed to crushing weaker species with a heavy hand, but Vane's every strike was an elegant, calculated blow to Imperial pride. One shot at a time. "We cannot allow this to continue," Orkey said quietly, his eyes narrowing. "He must be eliminated. But we cannot risk the morale of the troops. We need someone who can get close, someone who will succeed where others have failed." The door opened and a figure stepped inside. The moment he entered, the room seemed to grow colder. He was tall, his movements fluid, almost predatory. His eyes were a striking shade of pale amber, and his skin had an ashen gray hue, a clear mark of his alien heritage. He was one of the Empire's deadliest assassins, a creature known as HFY, a member of the chameleon class species. He was a hunter. "I'll take care of it, General," HFY said, his voice as smooth and cold as the razor-edge blade strapped his body. Orkey studied him carefully. "You'll succeed or you won't return. I'm sending you with 2 others. You'll be facing the best the Empire has ever produced." HFY gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, an eerie smile tugging at the edges of his lips. "I never fail." With that, he turned and left the room without another word. Deadeye had become more than just a threat. He was a symbol, and if the Empire allowed him to remain unchecked, that symbol would burn brighter with each passing day, inspiring more insurrection. He was a constant thorn in the Empire's side, a nuisance that would eventually turn into a dagger in their heart. The time for subterfuge was over. It was time for the Black Talons to hunt. As HFY made his way to landing bay, his mind drifted over the task at hand. It wasn't the first time he'd been sent to kill someone. The Black Talons were trained to be ghosts, moving in silence, leaving nothing behind but death and the memories of those who had witnessed their work. His 2 companions, Viator and Drawl, would ensure that the mission was a success. They were the best the Empire had. Viator was a force of nature, a psychic blade fighter with the ability to manipulate gravity to his will. He could tear apart a fleet of soldiers with a single thought, or crush their skulls without lifting a finger. But for all his power, Viator had a flaw, a volatile temper. He was relentless in his pursuit, but his emotions often clouded his judgment. Drawl, on the other hand, was a sniper himself, though not on the same level as Vane. His strength lay in his sheer durability. A tank in every sense of the word, Drawl was a gravity manipulator, capable of altering the weight of anything within his sight. He could create black holes with a single gesture, crushing entire squads with a flick of his wrist. Together, the 3 of them made a team the likes of which the galaxy had never seen. And they were coming for Deadeye. The planet they were about to land on was Iden Prime, A remote moon covered in dense jungles and thick fog, the kind of place where a sniper could make his last stand or his final mistake. The local atmosphere was thick with moisture, and the terrain was unpredictable, filled with sinkholes and shifting plateaus. As the shuttle descended through the thick cloud cover, KRYYX's eyes scanned the world below. His acute vision allowed him to see even in near total darkness, his thermal sensors picking up the faintest of heat signatures. There was nothing in the immediate vicinity, but he knew better than to underestimate his prey. Deadeye had already been here. He was waiting. A small, ghostly smile curled at the corner of KRYYX's lips. He won't see us coming. Meanwhile, on the forested moon of Iden Prime, Sergeant Marcus Vane, Deadeye, was already on the move. For weeks, he had been tracking Imperial movements, staying one step ahead of their patrols. He knew they would come for him. They always did. It was the way of the Empire. They didn't forget threats. But he didn't fear them. He had seen their fear when they tried to hunt him before, and that was the key to his survival. Deadeye had spent his entire career as a soldier, a marksman, a killer. He had learned how to blend into any environment, how to use the land to his advantage. The jungle of Iden Prime was no different from the deserts of Karen 7 or the battlefields of the Outer Rim. It was just another place to hide. And wait, his rifle, an old relic from Earth, was clean and silent. Every part of him was focused, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Black Talons wouldn't know what hit them. KRYYX and his team of assassins were experts in their craft, but Deadeye had a skill they didn't. He could wait for hours, even days, watching his enemies without them ever knowing he was there. And when the time came, when they were within range, he would make his shot. He didn't miss. As the sun began to set on the dense jungle, casting long shadows over the fog-choked ground, Deadeye took a deep breath and settled into position. The Black Talons had come to hunt him, but they were about to learn just how wrong they were. He wasn't just a sniper. He was a hunter too. And in this game, he always won. The first shot would be the signal, and after that it would all be over. The dropship hissed as its landing struts extended, steam venting from its undercarriage like the breath of some slumbering beast. KRYYX stepped out first, his form flickering momentarily as the adaptive camouflage shimmered to life. Behind him came Drawl, heavy and deliberate, each armored footstep sinking slightly into the mossy floor. Viator emerged last, cloak dragging across the soil, his fingers twitching with suppressed psychic energy. The jungle of Iden Prime was dense, humid, and loud, with the kind of natural noise that could mask movement, but also conceal threats. No words passed between them. They didn't need them. The Black Talons were surgical predators, efficient, lethal, and though they had never hunted a human before, none of them voiced any hesitation. KRYYX vanished first. His form dissolved into foliage as if he'd never been there. His thermal signature dampened, heart rate slowed, and breathing adjusted to mimic the ambient sound. Drawl moved toward high ground, lumbering toward a hill crest where his long-range gear could deploy. Viator closed his eyes and extended his senses, his mind stretching out across the jungle like a spiderweb catching vibrations. Marcus Vane was already watching them. From high up in a decayed tree husk, he peered through a cracked scope. His rifle rested on a natural brace of thick branches, its barrel wrapped in cloth to mask reflections. He studied them one by one. KRYYX moving invisible through the low fog, Drawl searching for elevation, and Viator standing motionless, as though listening to the planet breathe. He didn't fire. Not yet. Patience wasn't just a virtue out here. It was survival. The assassins didn't understand the jungle the way he did. They walked through it. He was part of it. Every inch of Iden Prime had taught him something. Where the birds stopped chirping, where the wind shifted wrong, where the ground was soft because something had disturbed it. He didn't need tech. He had instinct, and instinct had never lied to him. KRYYX moved swiftly, silently. His breathing matched the insect's hums. The low chirping of lizards masked his heartbeat. He didn't think Vane could detect him. Invisibility, after all, was his advantage. What he didn't realize was that Vane wasn't looking for a shape. He was listening for what wasn't there. 20 meters in front of KRYYX, a cluster of bramble rustled for just a fraction of a second. Too sharp, too precise. The local wildlife avoided it. KRYYX stepped around it, unknowingly avoiding a spike trap one of many Vane had embedded in a radius of his position. That told him something. KRYYX was careful, smart, but not invincible. KRYYX came to a clearing and paused. His heat vision picked up nothing, but something fell off. He crouched beside a rock and activated his microdrone, releasing a tiny flyer that scanned for biological traces. It didn't get far. A muted snap, then a flash, and the drone dropped out of the air, impaled by a sharpened metal sliver, primitive and mechanical. It had no heat signature, no energy source. KRYYX's heart rate rose slightly. The drone had been sniped without a sound. He didn't realize until too late that his cloak's edge had caught a wire. A faint click echoed in his ear. The explosion wasn't large. It wasn't meant to kill, just disorient. Shards of darkened glass scattered around KRYYX's position, clouding his optics. He blinked furiously, switching to another mode, but by then a bullet tore through the branches behind him. It hit him in the side, non-lethal, but brutal. He gasped, stumbled, and activated emergency med gel, but the second shot never came, because Marcus had already moved. KRYYX dropped to a knee, snarling in his native tongue, blood dark against the moss. He scanned the ridges, the treetops, the wind patterns, but there was nothing. He was bleeding, exposed, and for the first time in his career, unsure where the enemy had gone. Draw heard the explosion and shifted his scope. His helmet whirred softly, recalibrating focus to thermal view. KRYYX's form lit up, a pulsing red silhouette in the green-blue of the jungle. He zoomed out, searching for a secondary signal. There was none. That was troubling. He engaged wide-range scanners and began mapping a cone of potential shooter trajectories. 53 possibilities, narrowed to 17. Still too many. He adjusted gravity around his position, increasing the pull slightly, enough to collapse weak branches or dislodge anything hidden nearby. A test. A single leaf fluttered unnaturally from the ridge to his right. Drawl turned, primed his grav launcher, and fired. The impact crushed the upper half of the tree. Bark exploded outward, but all he found were vines and a bundle of stripped clothing, filled with dirt. A decoy. That's when the shot hit him, clean through the shoulder. Not a kill shot, but devastating. His armor crumpled inward like paper. He dropped, rolled, and activated defense fields, but the area was already empty again. He cursed under his breath, eyes wide. This human was outplaying them. Across the field, Viator felt the psychic aftershocks of Drawl's pain ripple to the ambient mental field. He snapped his eyes open, fury boiling in his chest. This was unacceptable. He raised his hand. The air around him shimmered. Roots tore upward, displacing the ground in massive waves. The trees bent as gravity warped. His mind pushed outward, seeking Marcus like a predator sniffing blood. You think you're clever? Viator snarled aloud, his voice echoing across the jungle. You're just a man. We are evolution made flesh. We are the hand that ends defiance. A stone clattered somewhere behind him. He turned, swinging a blade of kinetic energy. Only shadows. But then a voice, quiet, from nowhere and everywhere, replied, That's funny, because I've ended 2 of you already. Viator gritted his teeth. His power surged. He sent out a psychic shockwave that flattened brush for 50 meters around. Birds screamed and scattered. Trees snapped. But no scream. No body. Just empty space. The realization hit him. Marcus wasn't fighting them directly. He was whittling them down, bleeding their strength, waiting until they made a mistake. He was baiting them. Drawl, recovering in his crater, growled low. He began recalculating wind patterns, triangulating echoes. His HUD displayed known paths and shadow movement, but every attempt to pin down Marcus led to dead ends. The sniper didn't leave footprints, didn't trigger thermals, didn't even leave scent trails the way alien hunters expected prey to. He wasn't prey. He was the one setting traps. Viator took to the air, lifted himself with a pulse of energy, hovering like a god above the jungle canopy. Below, Drawl crawled toward cover, hating the feeling of exposure. KRYYX was still alive but silent, likely retreating to mend his wound. 3 killers sent to hunt a man. And so far, all three had been outmaneuvered by a ghost in the trees. Back inside the ruined husk of a hollowed tree trunk, Marcus sat with his back pressed to bark, rifle across his knees. He was breathing slow, steady, like he was back on the range. The jungle had gone quiet, too quiet. They were angry now. Good. Anger led to sloppiness. Sloppiness got people killed. He checked his remaining ammunition. 5 rounds. No resupply. He wouldn't need more. He looked up through the leaves, the fading sunlight streaking across the canopy like veins of fire. In his ear, a soft beep. Motion sensor tripped 20 meters west. VA tours doing, no doubt. Rain drizzled from a storm-choked sky, hissing softly as it struck the smoldering remains of outpost Makarov. The metallic scent of scorched circuitry mixed with the iron tang of blood. Smoke drifted lazily over the battlefield, curling like ghosts over the corpses of the Empire's elite. The Fifth Fong assassins. Lieutenant Kale moved slowly, boots crunching over debris, his rifle hanging loosely at his side. Around him lay the best soldiers the Galactic Empire had ever produced. Bio-enhanced, neural-linked, masters of stealth, speed, and death. Now they were just meat. He knelt beside one body, Talius Vorn, genetically engineered for rapid reflexes and spatial awareness beyond human limits. A legend even among the assassins. Dead. A perfect. Cold hole was bored through the center of his forehead. Clean. Precise. No hesitation. No struggle. Kale touched the blood with gloved fingers. Still warm. It had happened recently. And yet, there had been no alerts. No counterfire. No signs of a firefight. Just the aftermath of a perfect execution. A whisper crackled in his comms. Lieutenant Kale, report. It was Commander Dresk, his tone sharp and strained. Kale rose. I scanned the ruins. They're all dead. Every one of them. Static, then enemy count? Kale hesitated. Unconfirmed. Possibly one. Silence followed. Then, you're telling me one human did this? Kale's jaw tightened. He didn't want to believe it either. But the evidence was all around him. Sir, he said slowly, this wasn't a battle. It was a message. The calm stayed silent. Kale moved further into the wreckage, stepping over shattered armor, torn limbs, severed gear. All signs pointed to an ambush, but an ambush that had been executed with such surgical precision it defied belief. One shot per target. No wasted movement. No noise. No escape. Whoever had done this didn't just kill. He hunted, and he made sure they knew it before they died. Kale's eyes swept the tree line. Somewhere he was still out there, watching. 10 kilometers away, Nathan Cole lay nestled deep in a hollow of a tree, his body sunken into the mud like a ghost. His breath was shallow. Steady. His rifle rested on a bed of moss, the barrel covered in a sleeve of wet leaves. His camouflage suit was soaked through, colored by grime and nature's decay, rendering him practically invisible. He had been in that position for 18 hours. He didn't mind. He had trained for this. He lived for this. And now, finally, the first wave of killers had come, and they had all died. Nathan didn't smile. There was no satisfaction in death. No thrill in victory. Just silence and the weight of purpose. He reached into a small pouch at his side, pulling out a battered photograph. Water-stained. Faded. His brother's face stared back at him, smiling, full of life. A memory burned into paper, frozen before the war, before the Empire destroyed his home, before they leveled his town from orbit just to test a new weapon, before they called it a strategic incident. They had never even learned his brother's name. Nathan had made sure they knew his. The first bullet had been for Scout, the second for the comms tech, the third, Talius Vorn. Each shot had purpose, each kill a signature. And the Empire was just starting to notice. Inside the Empire's forward command ship orbiting the planet, Commander Dress stood in a darkened control room, face lit by red data screens filled with tactical feeds. You're saying we lost 12 assassins. Silently, simultaneously, he said through gritted teeth. The AI officer responded in its cold, emotionless tone. Correct. No distress signals. Minimal resistance. Evidence suggests a single hostile sniper with extensive training. Dresk scoffed. That's impossible. Even the humans didn't train killers like that anymore. Kale's voice buzzed through the channel. He's not just trained, sir. He's something else. He was ready for them before they landed. He knew their approach, their formation. He predicted their timing. Predicted? Dresk echoed. Like he'd seen it before, Kale said. The commander turned away from the monitors and faced the glass viewport overlooking the planet. His fists clenched behind his back. The Empire was vast, invincible in its own eyes, and yet this ghost in the forest had just torn through its deadliest hunters like tissue paper. A single human, buried in mud and silence, was making them bleed. Nathan shifted slightly as a new sound carried through the trees, a low hum, distant but growing. Dropships. So they were sending more. He expected as much. His fingers wrapped around the rifle again, the cold barrel steady against his cheek. He didn't panic. He didn't run. He waited. He had mapped the terrain for weeks, learned every route, every slope, every acoustic shadow the forest offered. He had no spotter, no drones, no satellite link, just instinct and rage sharpened into discipline. The Empire had believed they were fighting another war. They didn't realize they had stepped into a vendetta. Nathan blinked slowly, counting the pulse between aircraft. For incoming, heavy troop transports. They'd be carrying another squad, maybe more. He tapped a hidden switch. 3 old EMP mines, buried in the brush hours earlier, began pulsing faint blue. He didn't need to kill them all. He just needed to send another message. Another whisper in the wind. Let them wonder if Earth had bred more like him. Let fear gnaw at them. Let commanders second-guess every deployment. One man, one rifle, and the entire galactic empire hesitating. Back on the ground, Kale approached the tree line, careful not to disturb the kill zone. He could feel eyes on him, not the eyes of survivors. No one survived here. The eyes of something that chose not to shoot. Yet, he spoke aloud, not for the comms, not for himself. I know you're out there, he said quietly. You didn't miss because you don't miss. I get it. He paused. The wind stirred the leaves. You made your point. But you're not just killing soldiers anymore. You're killing the Empire's myth. Silence answered him. Kale slowly stepped back. In that silence, a single thought bloomed like a flare in his mind. They weren't fighting a human anymore. They were fighting an idea. And ideas, especially the terrifying ones, don't die easy. Far above, in the Empire's high council chambers, the report landed on a holodeble with a soft beep. A senator picked it up, reading the casualty list, frowning. Another squad lost? Worse, a general murmured. They were humiliated. By whom? The general paused. Finally, he spoke one name. Nathan Cole. A pause. Then a murmur ran through the room. He survived Earth? Apparently, he did more than survive. Back in the forest, Nathan dismantled his rifle. He didn't need it tonight. Not yet. He faded deeper into the woods, nothing more than a shadow between branches. They would keep coming. Squads, drones, bombers, assassins. Let them. He had time. He had patience. And he had purpose. The war wasn't over. But the myth of imperial invincibility that had died with Talius Vorn. And Nathan Cole, he never missed.